Okay, let me write my number. And let's click on send. I should receive an SMS from Firebase. Okay, so here it is. If I copy this and if I paste it in the OTP and if I click on verify, this should take me to the home screen. So that's working great. Hello friends, I'm Auth from Easy Approach, and in this video we are going to integrate mobile verification from Firebase Authentication in our Flutter application. I already have a video on this topic. However, the video is too old actually because I've made it almost 1.5 years ago, and there are a lot of deprecated stuff in that video. So people were actually requesting me to remake the video, and also there are a lot of stuff that's changed until now from Google to make sure the device safety. So we have to do some additional stuff in order to run the application, or in order to completely integrate Firebase authentication in our Flutter application. So let's start making this thing. So I'm actually starting from the very scratch. We just created a new Flutter application, a new project, and you can see there's nothing I have done with the code. It's just the default code, so that you guys can really see the progress. So first of all, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add some dependencies in pubspec.yaml file so that we can have the features that is required in the application to integrate Firebase authentication. So there are two dependencies. The first one is Firebase core to use Firebase actually in the Flutter application, and the other one is Firebase authentication, which is more specific to authentication stuff. So once you added these two dependencies, you can click on pub-get. This would install these dependencies in the application, and then you can use. You can also use the latest dependencies. However, I'm still using Flutter 1.2, not upgraded to Flutter 2, because I have the older projects that's actually using dependencies which requires 1.2, and they cannot run till now. They cannot run on 2.0. So I will soon update it to 2.0, but right now I'm using 1.2. So you can add the version, you can update it based on what version of Flutter you are actually using. Now the second thing that we need to do, we can close this pubspec.yaml file since we don't need it again. Now the second thing that we need to do is we would have two screens in our application. The first one would be the login screen, on which user can enter the credentials like his phone number and the code he will receive. And once he will be verified, then he will be navigated to the home screen. So there will be basically two screens in the application. So what I'm gonna do, inside the lib, I'm gonna create a package or folder, you can say, with the name screens. And inside this, I'm gonna have two stateful widget, because for the state management, I'm not going to use some other state management, since the topic is really specific to Firebase authentication. So we can just go with the state management using stateful widget. So the first screen will be the login screen. You can name anything you want, login_screen, and let's make it a stateful widget, and let's give it a name, login screen. And also we need to import material ... at least. That's good. And the second screen actually will be the home screen. So home_screen, and this also will be a stateful widget. First of all, let's import material ... and then you can make a stateful widget, the name home screen. And for now, because we normally use a scaffold as the base widget or as the root widget for every screen, so that we can use material design components like app bar and floating action button and so on. So we need to have a scaffold in build. Secondly, just to identify these screens and uniquely, we can just simply use a center widget, and we can have a text home screen. Okay, so we can do the same. We can just copy this thing and we can have this code in login as well. Just rename it to login. Now the first, by default, let's remove this access comments. By default, our application will take user to login screen right now, because after some time we will surely going to have some verification. If the user is already logged in, then he will surely be taken to the to home screen rather than login. But right now, because we don't have any functionality so far, so we are just going to navigate users to the login screen by default. So let's reference here login screen. Okay, so let's run the application to see what we have. So you can see the user is taken to the login screen, and if I can remove the debug banner, because I don't like it, so you can just make it false. Okay, that's great. Now the mobile verification has actually two steps in the flow. The first step is user has to give the mobile number so that we can forward it to Firebase, and then Firebase will send the OTP code to the user physical device. So then user has to provide the OTP code that he has received in his physical device. So obviously we are going to have two different views in the login screen. The first one will be for letting user give his mobile number, and the second one will be to user give his OTP code that he has received. And then after taking the OTP code, we will further verify if that matches to the one that is sent by Firebase on the device, and then we can take user to the home screen. So basically we are going to have two states we can actually make enum for showing two different views in the login screen, and we can give a name to both of the state. The first one, we can maybe show mobile number state, show mobile actually form state, so that user can give the mobile phone number, because that's actually the first step. And the second state we can make show OTP code state. So in this case, actually the Firebase already sent the OTP, and now user has to provide the OTP. So we can render the UI based on the current state of the login screen. So because it's just a theory, so maybe you're not actually getting my point, but let's make some code so that you can really understand. So what I'm gonna do, as I said, we have two different states in the login flow. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create an enum. So I'm gonna say it login state actually, or mobile verification state will be more better. That's great. And I'm gonna have two different values in it. The first one will be you can give any name, but just to clear things, the first one will be show mobile phone state, mobile form state. So in this case, our application will show a mobile form in which user can enter his mobile number, and then we would have some button like send or verify, something like that. And the second step or the second state will be show OTP form state. So in this case, the Firebase actually already sent the code on the physical device of the user, and then this state will be active in this state actually, we will show the OTP form, so user can enter the OTP that he has received on the device, and then we can verify. So these are two states that actually we need to check. So the initial state, when the user will come first time on this screen, the initial state will be obviously because user has to first provide his phone number to actually receive the OTP code. So the first state or the current state should be the first one, which is show mobile phone state, mobile form state. And what we can do now, we can remove this, and we can actually check if the current state equals to show form mobile form state. Then we can have show mobile form widget. We don't have it right now, but surely we are going to have it, and we can pass the context. And else, if the other state is the current state actually, then we would have get OTP form widget. So we are going to have these two widgets function soon in the application. So I hope you will get it. And now we can create these two methods that will return the form widget. Okay, that is good. So we have two empty functions that will return obviously the form. In case of get mobile form widget, it will return the mobile form widget, and in this case we will return the get OTP form widget. Basically they will be same because there must be a text field and then a button in both of the cases. Just we will associate different controllers in both of the cases, and we will just rename few things, and rest will be same. Now first let's create this get mobile form widget. So basically I'm gonna have two different widgets in vertical direction. The first one will be text field and the second one will be button. So obviously we need to have column widget so that we can have multiple widget in vertical axis. So the very first widget will be obviously the text field, so that we can take input from the user, and let's assign some hint to it so that user can know. Okay, that's great. And since right now we have the default state show mobile form state, so obviously this will show the phone number one. Okay, so just to make everything in the center, we can have a spacer before the content, before the first widget, and we can have a spacer after the last widget. That's great. And the second thing we're going to have, let's first have some vertical space using size box of maybe 16 pixels. Okay, then we need to have a flat button. Inside the on press, we are right now having just empty function, but we'll surely do some coding. And in the child, we can have some text like verify, maybe in the capital. Let's format this code. Okay, also we can give some color to the button, and also we can give some text color because we are using blue background color, so we need to have the foreground color of something white or brighter, so I'm using white. Okay, let's refresh it. So you can see the basic form, and there's no padding at all in the around this whole thing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut this thing, or rather than just having this as it is, I'm gonna wrap the content inside the container. Okay, so we need to cut it from here, and let's make a container. Inside the child we can paste it, and we can also provide the padding, maybe of 16 pixels. Now what we have to do, we have the text field, we have the complete form. We can associate a controller with this text field so that we can get the value from this text field in future. So let's create a final phone controller, and that should be text editing controller. And let's create another one because we are going to use for OTP also. That's great. So we can associate the controller with this text field. So this should be phone controller. And similarly, the same code will be inside this OTP form. Just we need to change few stuff. The first thing that we need to add is maybe we can do this thing send, and we can keep the other one to verify, and here we can change to OTP, enter OTP. And also don't forget to change this phone controller to OTP controller. That's great. Now before continuing further, because we have almost done with the UI, we need to now add the Flutter project in Firebase project, because we have just added a few dependencies in Flutter level in pubspec.yaml file. However, we need to explicitly add our Flutter project in Firebase project, and we need to explicitly add some dependencies in native level. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open Google Chrome, and I'm gonna open the project that I have just created. So this is phone verification project in Firebase. It's just a new project. You can create your own project. There's nothing issue in this. And what you can do, you can add the device in this Flutter, in this Firebase project. So for adding the Flutter project in this Firebase project, you have to basically choose these two both if your application support multiple platforms, and this is what Flutter made for. However, we are just going for the learning purpose, we are just going to add for the Android module. Okay, the first thing that we need to define in order to register the application in this project, we need to have Android package name. And for getting the Android package name, what you have to do, you have to go inside the Android module in your project, and then inside the app we would have build.credential file, and you can find the application ID, which is actually the package name, and you can cut this. Sorry, you don't have to cut this, you just have to copy this, and you can paste it here. That's great. Now you have to provide some app nickname, which is just optional, so let's give it anything. That's great. Now we have to provide the debug signing certificate, SHA-1 certificate, and you can see it's optional. However, in the case of Firebase Authentication, it's necessary. So you can see the text below for Google sign-in or mobile verification, this is actually required. So for obtaining this SHA-1, what we need to do, what we can do, there are actually a couple of options, but I'm going with the basic one, with the easy one. However, this is little long compared to the first one, the other one. So what you can do, you can open the Android module separately, and then you can open this Gradle. However, this will take some time to show the options, and you can see it's now showing the option. So in the Android, we have maybe we have the app, sorry, we have the task, and inside the task we have Android, and inside the Android we have signing report. So just double click on the signing report. You can see this will generate the SHA-1 as well as SHA-256, and we will actually need both. Right now we just need the SHA-1, but obviously in the future, when we configure a few more stuff, then we will need this SHA-256 also in the same project. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm just gonna copy the SHA-1, and you can copy both, and you can save it on maybe text on some notepad or something, and you can use in the future. You don't have to write, you don't have to obtain this again and again, because I think this is same in all the cases. So first of all, I'm gonna paste the SHA-1 here, and I can click on register app. Now we need to do the second step, which is to download this Google services.json file. So let's click on the download, and this will download the file. You can locate in the Explorer or something. Okay, so we already have a file downloaded a couple of times. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete the already existing file so that it comes with the proper name. Move to trash, where it is, move to bin. Okay, I'm gonna download it again so that it does not add the postfix with it. Now this is just Google services, because the name should be same. Okay, so what we need to do now, this file should be copied or moved to the Android module, and inside the Android module we have app folder. So this should be inside the app folder in the Android module. So what I'm gonna do, you can see this is the Android module and this is the app folder. So this file should be copied in this. So I'm just gonna drag the file and I'm just gonna drop it in the app folder. And you can just click on refactor. This will add the file in the project. And now we can proceed with the next step. So the next step is we need to add few stuff in the project level build.gradle file. So this is the actually thing that we need to add. In the build script, we have a couple of things, the repositories and dependency, and inside the dependency, we need to paste this Google GMS, Google Services. So let's go inside the project level Gradle build file. So you can find it here. And inside the dependencies, you can just paste this line. That's great. So we don't need to add anything more. Now the second step in this step actually is we need to add few stuff in app module build.gradle file, which is app level Gradle build file. So the thing that we need to add is, the first thing is we need to add this line. So I just copied it, and let's open the app level Gradle build file, which is actually inside the app folder. And the very first thing we need to add is after apply plugin. That's great. And then we need to add these two stuff in the dependencies. So the first one and the second one. That's great. So we can continue with the next step. I think this is enough. We have successfully added, and you can see the device. Here it is, the device that you have added in this Firebase project. Now we need to enable the Firebase authentication service in this Firebase project. So for enabling this, you need to go in authentication, and then you need to click on the setup sign-in method, and in the phone you can enable it. That's great. And you can see it's saying that phone authentication actually requires additional configuration steps. So we will click on this Android to see what's inside it, or maybe I can summarize it for you, but for now you can click on the save. So this is now enabled. And the second thing that we need to make sure is a lot of the stuff that we have already done on this file. We need to go on enable app verification. Okay, so recently Firebase added the phone verification system with the Firebase Authentication. So you can see it's saying to use phone number authentication, Firebase must be able to verify that phone number sign-in requests are coming from your same app. So there are actually two ways that Firebase actually accomplished this. The first one is the safety net. So if the user has a device with Google services installed, so Firebase will verify that it is the legitimate device, and there's nothing additional you need to do. Just to enable the safety net, you have to do two steps. The first one, you have to enable this service from the Google cloud, and then you have to add the app SHA-1256 fingerprint on your project. And the other option is Recaptcha Verification, and if the user does not have this Google services installed, then obviously Firebase will verify the mobile using this Recaptcha Verification. So in this case, you just need to add a single dependency. So I have actually copied the dependency. So you just need to add the dependency on native level. So this is actually the browser dependency. So for the reCAPTCHA thing, the Firebase actually enforce, or the Android device enforce to open the browser actually to show the CAPTCHA for verification. So this dependency should be here in case of reCAPTCHA. And then the first, let's complete this first thing. You first have to click on this Android device check API. You have to enable it actually before running the application. So make sure you select here the same project that's actually we are using. So this is phone verification. So let's search for the phone verification, and you can find it. Let's click on this and make sure it's completely you can see now viewing project phone verification. Okay, so now you can enable this service, which is Android device verification. So this actually we need this in case of safety net mobile identification or the verification. So once it is enabled, that's great. You can see this is enabled. And the second step, in order to have this in safety net completely successfully work, you need to add the SHA-256 as well. We have recently added the SHA-1, but now we have to add the SHA-256 also. So in this, for adding this, you can just click on this project setting, and you can go at the bottom, and you can see the SHA certificate already added, but it is SHA-1. So in order to add SHA-256 also, you just need to paste the SHA-256 code. You don't need to do anything. So I have already the SHA-256. So let's copy this. And since we have both of the SHA certificate, we can close the Android module, and you can just simply paste it. And you can see by default or automatically it detects that this is SHA-256 because it's lengthier in the length. Okay, so now we can click on the save button. So we have actually completed all the stuff for actually Firebase work properly. Okay, so now we have done with all the configuration stuff, and we can close all the unnecessary files. Okay, so mostly we'll work on this login screen, so just close the project explorer also, and let's do the real coding stuff. So firstly, what I'm gonna do before using Firebase in the application, we need to enable or initialize the Firebase in the project. So for initializing the Firebase in the project, we need to write few lines in the main function. So basically, we first need to write Firebase dot initialize app, and you can see this is a future, so we need to add a wait keyword before it. And since we are using a wait, we need to add the async as well. And there's one more thing, before actually we call this run app, which actually opens the Flutter app, which actually starts the Flutter application. So before this run app, this is just a Dart stuff. And when this run app executes, so this is actually the Dart communicates with Flutter. So what we are actually doing, we are initializing this Flutter initialize app before Flutter application runs. So whenever we have such sort of situation, we have to write a line which is Flutter widget binding. Widget Flutter binding, actually, I think, and we have to ensure initialize. So whenever we have to communicate with Flutter framework before it actually runs, we have to write this code. So this three or a couple of lines are actually for initializing the Firebase in the project. Now what we have to do, the first thing is in this login screen, we first need to get the reference of the Firebase authentication, so we can use the methods or the feature that's inside it for signing in the user or signing out or whatever the thing is. So let's write Firebase Auth, and let's create the instance. You can just say auth and just initialize it using Firebase Auth dot instance. So this will provide you the instance, and then you can use whatever inside it. And for the mobile verification, we have actually a feature which is called verify phone number, and you can see it's actually a feature, and there are different callbacks associated with it. So I will come on each one by one. So first we have to use here await, and since we are using await, we can use here async. That's good. And now I will talk about these callbacks one by one. This is just a phone number that you need to provide to the Firebase that's actually given by the user. So we can just get the phone number using phone controller.text. And this is actually verification completed callback. So let's write the code for it. So whenever the verification is automatically done, we actually receive the phone auth credential. I will explain it further soon. And these are all the callbacks that's actually future, so we need to add async, and this is how the structure will be. Whenever the verification fails, in case user has given the wrong mobile number, or in case user has provided the wrong OTP that he has received, so we receive inside the verification, we receive actually verification failed instance, which is which contains the error and all that stuff. And this code sent will get called whenever we receive code from the Firebase on the mobile on the user physical device. So whenever this callback gets called, we normally update the UI to show the OTP form so that user can give the OTP, because this callback makes sure that the code is successfully sent to the user mobile, and now he can enter the OTP. So the first thing that we receive in this is verification ID, which is actually unique in each of the verification requests that goes from app to the Firebase. And this will be in the future, this will be also used for letting user into the app and signing it to the app. So we will need this verification ID in the future. Also, it contains the resending token, So we are not going to use this resending token. However, this should be here. Okay, and this is the async future, so we need to have this. And at the last we have the code auto retrieval timeout. So what happens is there is some threshold for the auto verification, something like 60 seconds maybe, or maybe 30 seconds, I'm not sure. So after the timeout has occurred for the auto verification completed, this callback gets called. So inside it we receive the verification ID, which we also receive in case of code sent. And we will not use it also. The main thing that we will going to use is this code sent to update the UI from login form, from phone form to the OTP form. We will also use this verification completed to let user into the app automatically, and this will be this will verify the user. Actually, Android itself will verify the user. We don't have to explicitly do anything, but we will surely work on this first. And once we achieve this functionality, then we will write the code for verification completed, because it's just a simple couple of lines code. And we also going to use this verification failed in case we get any error. In case the user has provided the wrong OTP or the wrong mobile number, we will print the error on the console or maybe on the snack bar. Okay, so now first let's start with the code sent callback, because this is the most essential. We will actually show the OTP code UI. We will actually update the UI whenever this callback would get called. So first of all, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call the set state to update the current state of the login or the mobile verification. You already know we have the current state show mobile form state, which is the default state. But whenever we receive the code, we need to change this current state to the show OTP code state. What was the name of it? So it's mobile verification state, and inside it we have to update it to show, and you can see it's giving cannot be used because it's final. I've made it final. Okay, so we don't need to have this final. We can just make it mobile verification. That's great. And now the second thing is we need to save this verification ID, because it's just a local and it only can be accessible inside this code send callback. But we surely need to take user to the, or we surely need to update the UI to the OTP code. And whenever the OTP code will be filled and the user would click on the button that will be verify or sent, whatever the button will be on the OTP form, then we will trigger the signing in. So we need to have this verification ID for signing in. So we need to save this in the global level. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a string verification ID so that I can cache it, and simply I can use this .verification ID and I can replace it or update it with this. That's great. Also, for the verification failed, we can just print the error on the console or maybe on snack bar. So for having a snack bar, what I'm gonna do, the more good way is to associate a key with the scaffold. Let's make a final global key with the scaffold state, and let's name it a scaffold key. We can use it to show the snack bar. And we can associate this key with the scaffold. That's great. And for showing the snack bar, we can simply access this scaffold key, and we can get the current state, then we can write show snack bar. By this way, you don't have to worry about the context. You just need to get the reference of the scaffold key, and then you can show the snack bar. The other way requires the context. So now we can show the snack bar with the text, and you can access this verification failed, and inside it we have the message, so we can simply print the message. That's great. Before moving to signing in for functionality, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the loading stuff, because the verify phone number will take some time. So we need to, for adding the interactivity in the application, we need to add the loader as well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create a bool variable with the name show loading, and by default it will be false. But whenever this before this verify phone number call, we will call the set state, and we will change the show loading to true. Also, if the verification completed, we will again call the set state, and we will change the show loading to false. And this will be the case in case of we get the verification fail. And also when we get the code on the device, there should be loading, and since we already have a set state, we don't need to have explicitly. And in case of code auto retrieval timeout, there should not be the verification, there should not be the loader false, because this will get called in any way, since we are not right now doing the code for the verification completed, so this will get called. So there's no need to explicitly remove or hide the loader in this case. And what we can do now, whenever we can check if the show loading is true. So if show loading is true, then in this case we can have a center widget with the circular progress indicator, and if it is false, then we can check the current state, and rest all the things will be same. Now let's complete the rest of the functionality. We have actually done the code for the code sent, and we have updated the UI, and we have also saved the verification ID, because this verification ID will be useful for getting the reference of getting the object of phone authentication credential, because using this object you can directly sign in the user to the Firebase. So in case of verification completed, which is done by Android device automatically, you receive this phone auth credential, and then you just need to call another feature, and you need to pass this object, and then it will actually sign in the user. And in case of this code sent, we need to explicitly get this object, and you can get this object using the verification ID and also the code that is provided by the user. So let's let's get this instance first, and then we can use, in both of the cases, we can just have a feature for signing in using phone auth credential, and we can use in both of the cases. So first of all, let's create this phone authentication credential. So obviously we are going to create it inside the flat button of get OTP from widget, because we will get the OTP code once user press on this button. So let's make it async, because we have to have the await keyword inside it. And to obtain the phone auth credential, we have phone auth provider, and inside it we have we have just credential, and here we have to pass the verification ID, and here we have to pass the OTP code that user has given. So with this you can create the phone auth credential, and then we can use this phone auth credential to sign in to the application. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call a feature or a function that is not currently present, but we will surely make it, sign in with phone auth credential. So we will use this object to sign in to the Firebase, because we are getting the same object in case of verification completed, which is auto done by Android. So this function will be useful in that case also. And this should accept the phone auth credential object. So let's create this function. Okay, let's take it at the top. And this function will be called in case of verification auto completed also. However, I'm just commenting this thing because if we make this thing active, then it will verify the mobile automatically, and we don't have to update the UI, and we don't have to explicitly give the code. So firstly, we want to check, we want to verify the functionality of this thing. So that is why we need to make this comment, so that we can completely first test this and make sure that this is working, and then we can just recomment it and we can move to the next thing. So let's first of all, let's make this asynchronous, because we are going to use a wait keyword inside it. And then what we can do, we can use the auth reference, and inside it we have sign in with credential. Okay, so we are going to call this. Sorry, sign in with credential. And you can see it's a future that returns the auth credential. So I'm gonna have a final auth credential equals to await, because this is a future credential. Okay, and inside it we can pass the phone auth credential. That's great. And what we can do, we can also wrap this thing inside try and catch, and this will be Firebase auth exception if we get any. And in case we get some exception, we can simply what we can do, first of all, before running this function, because calling this sign in with credential, because this is a long task, we need to have loading visible. So let's make it true, and if we get exception, let's make it false. Also, we can show the exception on the scaffolds, on the snack bar. So we can call show snack bar. With the snack bar, we can have a text widget, and inside it we can just simply e.message. Let's format the code, and this is great. And now if the flow goes this way, there's no exception, so we need to, after this, we need to call set state again, and we need to make show loading false, because this is the correct flow and we didn't get any exception, and we have make the loader visible, so we have to make it hidden also. And now we have to check if the auth credential contains the user credential, or the user object actually. So if this is not null, it means it contains the user object and the login has successfully completed. Then we need to take user to the home screen. And let's make it material page root. And here we need to have the context, and then we can call the home screen. That's great. So this is great, and we can minimize this. And there's some error it's saying. Okay, so we have passed the OTP controller. We have to pass the text instead inside the. Okay, so you can see we have obtained the phone auth credential, and we have called the phone auth credential sign in with phone auth credential. That's great. This will be the flow in case of user explicitly give the code. And once we receive the code, we have falsified the show loading, we have to update the UI, and we have saved the verification ID. That's great. In case of error, we have just snack bar, and that's all looks good. And okay, so let's do something in the home screen also. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the sign out functionality also. So inside the scaffold, I'm gonna have a floating action button and floating action button. And in the on press, what I'm gonna do, I will show you later. And in the child, we can just have a icon and icons.sign out, I think, or maybe log out. Yeah. And for signing out, we first need to obtain the Firebase Auth instance, like we get in case of login screen. So this is Firebase Auth instance. Okay. And what we have to do, we have to call async, and we simply need to call the auth.signout. You can see it's a future, so we need to add the await, and once it is successfully signed out, we can navigate user back to the previous screen, which is the login screen. Or we can also do push replacement. I think that will be more good. Material page root context login screen. That looks all great. Okay, so let's run the application, because I haven't run it once on the device, because this should be tested on the real device. So what I'm gonna do, instead of running this application on emulator, I'm gonna test it on the real device. I've connected with the cable, with the USB cable, and I'm gonna open the console also to see if it gives any error. And I will it will be really awesome if we don't get the error in first go, because I'm expecting a lot of errors, because since we haven't tested the app once. So what I'm gonna do, I'm simply just give me a time. I'm actually connecting to Visor. Okay, so it will take some time. Okay, so you can see it's showing the app, and I'm gonna run the application on my device. You can see I've selected my device, and let's click on this play button. This will take some time. Okay, so don't worry, it's just a warning. So the app is being installed, and you can see the application that's successfully installed. And if I open the application, so this should show the login screen and the log and the mobile phone form, because the current state is the mobile phone form. And if I give my number so here's my number. If I click on the send button, this should show the loading. Also, this should show send the OTP on my mobile. So you can see it's showing the loading, and okay, so you can see I have received the OTP also, and I have copied it, and let's paste it on this form. Let's click on the verify, and you can see we have successfully on the home screen. And if I go and check if that really happened, I mean the user has really came into the app. So what I can do, I can go on the authentication, and you can see there is the entry against my phone number. So it means really the user has come to the app, and he has successfully authenticated. And what will happen if I click on this logout button. So this should take me back to the login form. And if I reopen the app, because we haven't really checked if the user is already logged in or not. So this should show the same login screen. However, this should show in case it's already, no, I think we have log out. So if I again log in to the app, okay, that's great. Okay, this is the home screen. If I close the app, and if I reopen it, so basically this should take me to the home screen. However, let's run the app. However, this is taking us to the login screen because we haven't really checked if the user is already logged in or not. So what we can do, we have to write a small code. So what we can do, we can have another widget which I am calling Initializer, which will decide which screen to go. Initializer widget maybe, and Initializer. Okay, that's great. And what I'm gonna do by default, I'm gonna show a loading at the center. And inside the init state, what I can do first, I can get the reference of Firebase Auth. There will be Firebase Auth.instance. And I can also have a Firebase user, which is just user. So this is the user that is currently logged in the system. So you can get the Firebase user equals to auth dot current user. And what we can do, if it is and we can also make another bool is loading, which is by default will be true, and we can make is loading false at the last. So if it is loading true, then we can show the scaffold with the loader. However, if there's no loading, we need to check if user is null. So if user is null, then we will show the login screen. However, if it is not null, we will show the home screen. That's great. Let's test this. Okay, and rather than showing the login screen by default, we will have the initializer widget. Okay, let's run the app again, because we have already logged in, so this should take us to the, by default this should take us to the home screen. So you can see we have navigated to the home screen. If I close the app and reopen it again to make sure that it's working, So I have closed the app and let it open first, and we have to verify if it is taking us to the home screen. And you can see it's taking us to the home screen. If I click on this sign out, and if I close the app and reopen it, this should now take us to the login screen instead of home screen. So wow, it's working. So this is it from this video. In this video, we have actually integrated Firebase authentication, mobile authentication specifically in the Flutter application, and we have seen that how to enable the mobile verification, which is the new addition in the configuration to actually ensure that the device is really the same device that's registered on the Firebase Auth. So we have to enable the safety net, and we have to also add the dependency in case of Recaptcha. So these are the few new stuff, and also the last video, as I said, contains the deprecated stuff. So this would really help you, and because this is the latest video. So I hope you like it. If you like, please give a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel and share the videos with those who want to learn Flutter with easy approach. So thank you for watching.